Right. Get these tabs open 1 moment. We'll get started shortly. All right. Good morning. I am the Pit Messiah, your host for the Quiet Storm live trading session for July the 8th, 2025. Um, Unlike last night, there wasn't a lot of pre market action for us. So we're going to go over those trades. Again, as usual, I'm going to explain the basics of what it is that we do. Then we'll evaluate each trade that we have kind of in the pocket right now and starting in our trading session. We'll be going to about 4 a.m. Central Standard Time today. So 2 hours. It's 2:01 in the morning now here in Houston where I'm doing the live from. So let's start as an example with United States dollar versus Mexican peso. This is an exotic Forex currency. So what happens is my trading system that I use is based off of exponential moving averages. These are the colored squiggly lines that you see on the chart. An exponential moving average is a graphical representation of the average of the last few number of candles. So the yellow line is the 5 exponential moving average. It represents the power of the buyers in the market. The red line is the 13 exponential moving average. It represents the powers of the sellers in the market. So when you're looking at any asset on any time frame, in this case we're on the 15-minute, if the red is over the yellow, the 13 exponential moving average is over the 5 exponential moving average. That means that the sellers have control of the market on that asset on that time frame. Conversely, if the yellow line was over the red line, the 5 exponential moving average was over the 13 exponential moving average, would mean that the buyers have control of the market on that asset on that time frame. Then you have to take a look at the other 3 lines. You have the 50 exponential moving average, which is the aqua, the 200 exponential moving average, which is the gray, and the 800 exponential moving average, which is the blue. These are used to establish what the trend is. So for a downtrend, you need the blue line, the 800 exponential moving average on the top, the gray line, the 200 exponential moving average in the middle, and the aqua line, the 50 exponential moving average on the bottom, BGA. So putting that all together and evaluating this particular chart, you can quickly see the sellers are in control of the market and we're in a downtrend. And we have called a sell. So if you had this setup, you would have entered the trade at 9 a.m. yesterday, and you would be in profit as price continues the downtrend and sells off. And this can happen across multiple time frames. Again, this is USD Mexican peso on the 15-minute. We're not going to take it because it's already moved. But if you're going up to the 30-minute, it's the same setup. Again, blue on the top, gray in the middle, aqua on the bottom, red on top of yellow. This will sell off to about 18.43820. It's a lot of pips. On the exact same pair, you have it also on the 1 hour. So again, same setup. You have the blue on the top, the gray in the middle, the aqua on the bottom, the red over the yellow. This will sell off. So if you had caught at 9 a.m. yesterday, this trade on USD Mexican peso, you could literally have 3 positions open on USD Mexican peso on the 15-minute, the 30-minute, and 1 hour, and profit off of all of them. And all you have to do is just wait. Very good setup. We move on to the United States dollar versus the Danish krone. This is an example where you would not have entered the trade. Why? Because at the time of the trade, the blue is at the top, the aqua is in the middle, and the gray is on the bottom. This is not BGA, so this is not a downtrend. This is consolidation. As you can see, with the exception of this one move, price is pretty much moving sideways. And you don't want to trade in the market when the market is consolidated. You need the market to move up or the market to move down. You need to know what the trend is, and then you trade with the trend. Very simple. Let's go to the euro versus the Hungarian forint. This is another exotic pair. And again, we would not have entered this trade. Why? Because at the time the trade was called, the blue was on the top, the aqua was in the middle, the gray was on the bottom. This is consolidation. And what happened? Price jumped above the 800 and it's moved basically sideways for most of this time frame. And then it's come down and started to retest where it came from in the first place when the trade was called. So this is not a valid entry. Which brings us to the stuff that's more recent. We have Kava USDT. This is Kava versus Tether. Again, this trade was called quite some time ago, way back here, and it hit stop loss. So this trade is invalid. The next was called out at 115. This is token versus Tether. And when we look at it, we have the gray on the top, the aqua in the middle, and the blue on the bottom. This is consolidation. And what do you do to identify the consolidation? You simply look to the left. Price is basically moving sideways, with the exception of this one dip, and it will move right back into the consolidation zone as you see. From about right here to right here. Price has not really moved outside of that zone. And because we don't have AGB or BGA, AGB on an uptrend or BGA on a downtrend, this is not a trade that we would enter. So we have nothing new to start the night. Our next time frame is going to be 2:15 in the morning. It's a little under 7 minutes from now. For those of you that do want to keep abreast of the trades that I'm doing, I'm going to go ahead and drop the brokers that I'm using. I do use a color-coded system. Good morning, DJ. So let me explain that first. And I need to update these stats as well. So that percentage is wrong. Let me fix that real quick. This is 54.99. So since May the 2nd, we are at 573 wins versus 469 losses for a win percentage of 54.99%. And total pits won is 1,735,199. The color-coded system that we use for Forex pairs, whether they're major, which means they involve the US dollar, or minor, which means there are major currencies that don't involve the US dollar, for example, GBP versus JPY, we use the green. For exotic currencies, which is basically a major currency versus an emerging economy currency, like US dollar versus Mexican peso that we were just looking at, that's yellow. For spot cryptocurrencies, these are any cryptocurrency against the United States dollar, we use blue. For indices, examples would be the US 30, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ 100, the UK 100, or the Japanese Nikkei 225. Precious metals, gold. We trade gold versus the United States dollar versus the euro and versus the Australian dollar. We also trade platinum and palladium and silver. Oil, US oil and UK oil, and natural gas. These trades are all red. The majority of the trades you will see, because it is the most volatile section that we have, will be perpetual cryptocurrencies. These are purple. And then if we have any stocks that hit, these are also purple. And then any futures calls are orange. So if you are looking to take any of the perpetual trades, here's the broker for that. That's going to be Liquid Brokers. They also have all the other assets that we have, with the exception of futures. And then my secondary broker, which has better leverage on everything else except for crypto perpetuals, which they don't trade at all, would be LHFX. So those are the two brokers to use. Both of them are excellent. Multiple deposit options. Very clean withdrawal process for both. And then for futures, we use Top Step X. They have 46 futures that we trade, and those get called in live time. So the way this is going to work is around every 15 minutes or so, I have alerts set up on the 15-minute, the 30-minute, the 1 hour, the 4 hour, and the daily on around 414 different assets across multiple asset classes. When we hit those time marks every 15-minute, TradingView is going to take about 3 minutes to go through all these alerts, check all these different time frames on these different assets, and it's going to spit out probable buy or sell opportunities for us to enter the market. And then we're going to evaluate each one of those alerts to see whether it's a valid entry. If it is, we'll call out the parameters for the trade. It's going to be the pair, whether it's a market execution buy or sell, on what time frame we're trading on, the entry price, the stop loss, the take profit, and the risk to reward ratio. And I'll drop those in the chat. Now, if you're streaming with me on YouTube, the default for the chat is top chat. What you want to do is you want to click that down facing arrow, change that to live chat. And once you do that, you will see the trades being posted in live time as we get those opportunities. So it's 2:13. We've got less than 2 minutes left to go to 2:15 in the morning. And hopefully we get some action. Generally speaking, the quickest amount of time that we normally have is between 3:15 and 3:45 in the morning. So on the later half of the live, unlike last night where we had 15 trades that were called in the first 44 minutes, this might be a little bit slower. And the reason being is that we have major news items. So what I'll do is I'll wait to explain those until after 2:15, just to see if we get any trades. If we don't get any trades at the 2:15 time frame, we'll move into the news section and kind of describe what's going on here. 3 major news items for today. 1 on the Australian dollar and 2 on the New Zealand dollar. So while this is cooking up, I think we have 34 seconds. I'm going to grab some water at the water cooler real quick, and I'll be right back. All right, so it's officially 2:15 again. This process takes about 3 minutes for TradingView to get through all these alerts. We'll see what we end up getting. Around 2:18 in the morning is when we will know for certain whether we have some trades or not. Our next time frame is going to be at 2:30 in the morning. That's another 15 minutes from now. In the meantime, we do have an active trade book. If you want to keep abreast of those trades, I'm going to go ahead and post the link for that as well. I use TradingView to track all the trades. That is the watch list. What it's going to do is it's going to give you a dynamic list of all the trades that we have open, along with the markups for each. So for those of you who have been trading along with me, you'll keep abreast of where we are on each of those opportunities. I do track this stuff in live time, so we hit stop loss when we're not trading on the lives. I continuously trade throughout the day. And we make those adjustments throughout the day as well. For those of you that are interested, I do have a signal calling group, Project Genesis. I'll drop the link for that for those of you that are interested in joining. Does not cost you anything, and you can keep abreast of all the announcements and signal calls that dropped during this short 2-hour period. You do need Telegram, and there's a link to my private group, Project Genesis. All right, here we go. It does not appear like we're going to get any calls here at 2:15 in the morning. Again, our next time frame is going to be 2:30. So with that in case, we got a little bit of a lull. Let's move into the news section. Always good to kind of understand what's going on. This is Forex Factory, probably the cleanest setup in terms of news involving foreign currency. For Tuesday, July the 8th, we've got 3 announcements. We have a press conference to be done by the Royal Bank of Australia. In fact, they're already done with that. We'll discuss what they talked about. And then at 9 p.m. tonight, we have the official interest rate decision by the Royal Bank of New Zealand, followed immediately by a statement to be released by the Royal Bank of New Zealand. That means there's going to be a lot of volatility in any pair involving the New Zealand dollar. So for that, you're going to be looking at movement for the Australian dollar versus the New Zealand dollar. For Euro versus New Zealand dollar. For GBP versus New Zealand dollar. For the New Zealand dollar versus the Canadian dollar. For the New Zealand dollar versus the Japanese yen. And for the New Zealand dollar versus the United States dollar. So we're probably going to get some nice calls for that going into the session tomorrow, because that won't occur until about 9 p.m. It's probably going to be a little bit of consolidation after that and give us some opportunities on those 6 Forex pairs for tomorrow's live. Now, in terms of what went on for the Reserve Bank of Australia, the press conference and the rate decision. The Royal Bank, or the Reserve Bank of Australia, held their cash rate steady at 3.85%. This is unlike what they did for the Royal Bank of Australia, because they lowered their interest rate by 0.25%. This surprised markets a lot because they expected a cut, just like Australia did, and New Zealand decided to stand pat. A little strange on their part. It was a split decision. 6 voted in favor of holding and 3 wanted a cut. So normally when you have a split decision like that, you kind of bet your bottom dollar they might be looking for a rate cut the next time that they meet, which will be another 2 months from now. The governor of the Reserve Bank of Australia did make some remarks. First, he emphasized the decision reflected timing, not direction, and they want to await quarterly CPI, that's Consumer Price Index data, before easing further. So their CPI is going to be released next month, I believe. He did warn that monthly Consumer Price Index figures might understate inflation, and that quarterly data will kind of clarify their data trends. So they're being a little bit cautious, and I understand why. They don't want to cut interest rates too fast and then have to raise interest rates directly after because inflation becomes out of control. He also noted that the board wanted to remain cautious with room to respond if global conditions worsen, like trade disruptions. Kind of spoken but not spoken. He's really probably talking about the tariff situation between the United States and most of the rest of the world right now. It's kind of caused a little bit of upheaval. So the Aussie dollar did jump briefly versus the United States dollar on the announcement that the New Zealand dollar was standing pat. That retracement has since reversed and it's selling off. So the United States dollar is increasing in strength versus both the Australian dollar and the New Zealand dollar. So the outlook is that their next meeting is scheduled, I believe, for August the 12th, in which case they'll have fresh inflation data. And then the very next month in September is probably when you can expect an additional rate cut for 2025. In terms of the Reserve Bank of New Zealand and their cash rate and rate statement, they're expected to keep the cash rate at 3.25% unchanged. The next announcement for them is set for 2 p.m. on Wednesday, July the 9th. So not today, but tomorrow. So I believe the World Bank of New Zealand cut once this year, 2.25 percentage points since August of 2024. So they've been moving relatively slow. So that's all there we have in terms of news. Let's see, where are we? It's now 2:23. We've got about a little less than 7 minutes left to 2:30 in the morning. If you do have any questions, go ahead and drop those in the chat. Get those addressed as well. It does look like we hit another take profit, this time on Palladium versus Tether. Let's take a look at that. Yep. And we hit take profit at 1:30 in the morning. So Palladium versus Tether, I believe, was called out last week. And that is take profit smash for 414 pips. So we'll go ahead and get that announced. USDT sell for 14 pips. Guess what helped if I could spell this morning, wouldn't it? 414. And smashed. Melania USDT sell for 414 pips. And again, this is not a new signal call. This is a take profit smashed. There we go. So let's go ahead and get this off our trade list. This is no longer a valid trade. We did win, so let's go ahead and record that one in the books. $1,35, 199 plus. It was 414. Five, 6, 1, 3. We do have some other ones that are interesting. NASDAQ 100 hit stop loss last night, but now it's back in territory where it's kind of climbing up. So that may go back and hit the original take profit. I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't. Our trade on UK 100 is still in profit. It's been moving kind of sideways since July the 4th. Our trade on France 40 is also in profit. It's just moving very slowly. And our trade on Australian 200 is back in profit, and it's moving pretty slowly as well. We do have 6 trades on futures. We have 3 exotics. Got 8 regular Forex pairs. We have a trade open on gold versus euro, silver versus United States dollar, on UK and US oil, a ton of crypto perpetuals, mostly sells, or all sells. And we have a trade open on Cardano versus the US dollar and Doge versus the United States dollar. We did get an alert. It's calling out HO1, which is a future. And we'll get that called out. So this is a valid trade. We have aqua on the top, gray in the middle, blue on the bottom. This is an uptrend, aqua, gray, blue. We have yellow on top of red. The 5 exponential moving average is on top of the 13 exponential moving average, implying that the buyers have control of the market on that pair on that time frame. So this is going to be a buy to 2.4399. There we go. It's going to be a long position from current price. For a 2.34 risk to reward ratio. Oops. Let me grab the parameters for this. And we'll get this called out. All right, this is going to be a 15-minute confirmation buy. This is HO1. .34 risk to reward ratio. We can actually probably get a better price on that. No, it didn't wick. Good. Take profit is 2.4399. That's going to be for 274 pips. Stop loss is going to be 2.4008. That's going to be for 117 pips. And entry price is going to be at 2.4125. And here's our first call of the night. It's going to be a future HO1, 15-minute confirmation. Market execution buy. Entry price is 2.4125. Stop loss is 2.4008 for 117 pips. Take profit is going to be 2.4399 for 274 pips, and a risk reward ratio of 2.34. Carrie has a question. To take trades, it must sweep Asian higher low on the PK indicator. So, yeah. So, what the indicator is looking for is a clearance of the top or the bottom of the Asian range, followed by a cross of the 5 and the 13 exponential moving average. And then from there, you have to determine whether you're in an uptrend or downtrend, or whether the buyer and the seller is in control of the market. And that's in line with what's being called, whether it's a buy or sell. And then you take the trade. Any other combination of those things is consolidation. And you don't want to enter the market when, one, direction is uncertain, or two, the trade has already invalidated itself. The thing about exponential moving average is that it can uncross. So you just want to be very careful. So the way you can kind of make sure that it's a very, very valid trade, using this as an example, is you have an uptrend. You have the aqua on the top, the gray in the middle, the blue on the bottom. For the 5 and the 13, you have the yellow over the red. So the buyers are controlling the market. You're in an uptrend, and you have price at the time the trade was called above all of the EMAs. That means that all the EMAs are support for the trade buying up. Conversely, if you're on the sell, you really want price, ideally when the trade is called, to be below all of the EMAs, because now all of the EMAs above it are resistance to price going up. So this is already in profit for us, for instance. We literally just called it. And this works on anything. It works on all assets. It's just, there's different volatility per asset. But does it work every time? No. No system works every time. But it is fairly highly accurate. So let's go ahead and get this added to our trade book. This is HO1. And we've got it. So that was on the call. It got called at 2:30. Next time frame is 2:45 in the morning. That's about, what am I looking at? It's like the clock is wrong, but it's, never mind. It's showing 5 minutes, which is a little weird. I know there's more time than after 15 minutes, but whatever. Oh, it's because we're looking at a future. They're on a different clock than everything else. In terms of regular currency, I believe our top pair is currently New Zealand dollar versus United States dollar. But the one closest to take profit is actually an exotic, and that is the United States dollar to the Hungarian forint. So It's about to hit take profit for us. We called this out last night and right before the live at 12:30 in the morning. So we took this trade last night on the live actually. And then we also have getting closer to take profit, United States dollar versus the Polish zloty. Another one that's getting close. This is a much bigger trade, of course, is going to be the New Zealand dollar versus the US dollar. So looking on the 2 hour, we entered the trade on a major retracement for an original trade to 58628 once it crested off in price, and it's declined very nicely. We're very close to EMA cross on the 2 hour, in which case this is going to start falling in a free fall to the 800 EMA at 0.59579. If it clears there, it's going to very quickly get to take profit. So all very exciting to see. But the one that's closest that will probably hit take profit on the live is going to be the United States dollar versus the Hungarian forint. We'll keep an eye on this one. This was for 261 pips. A little under 8 minutes left to 2:45 in the morning. Waiting on our next slate of opportunities to enter the market on a buy or sell basis. Have to pardon me, I'm a little sleepier than normal. I didn't get into bed like I normally do. I just stayed up. I've pretty much been going nonstop since about 7 in the morning yesterday. All right, we're approaching about 5 minutes left to go to 2:45 in the morning. Again, it's not always immediately after we hit these time markers that we get trades, but it's normally about 3 minutes or so at the latest after every 15 minutes that we know whether or not we have opportunities to evaluate to get in the market. Hmm. Took the stop loss that entered on the shift for USD Huff. Yes, that's precisely what I did, Carrie. Even on opportunities that get invalidated, sometimes if you can catch the trend along with the shift of the EMAs, it gives you an opportunity to re-enter the same position to the previous take profit. And that's all I did here. I did the same thing on the United States dollar versus Polish zloty. And exotics tend to give you that opportunity. They run very fast, they run very volatile because it's a major currency versus a emerging economy. It could do really weird moves on you, but eventually it does start trading to trend. So just looking at what we saw on the Polish zloty trade, it's possible we get United States dollar versus Hungarian forint and United States dollar versus Polish zloty live and alive, which would be really cool. Matter of fact, it almost wicked to take profit on United States dollar and Hungarian forint just now. So I don't think this is going to take us longer than the next 30 minutes before we get that one. All right, about 1 minute left to 2:45 a.m. We'll see what we end up getting. Mhm. All right, here we go. A few more seconds. See what we end up getting here. Mhm. All right, but not 2 minutes past 2:45. About one more minute, we'll figure out whether or not we're going to get anything for this time frame. Doesn't look like it's the case. Hmm. Hmm. See, a little over 11 minutes left to go. Looks like we do have some downward moving on USD versus Hungarian forint. So we can go ahead and get this push and get take profit. All right, looks like we did hit take profit on the United States dollar versus the Hungarian forint for 261 pips. All right, it's 3:15. So a whole 30 minutes have passed, nothing left. Doesn't look like we're going to get anything for this time frame either. Next time frame is going to be at 3:30 in the morning. 3:30. That's less than 15 minutes from now. We'll have time stops at 3:45 and 4 a.m. If we don't get anything by then we'll go ahead and shut down the live for the night. I am the Pip Sign, your host for the Quiet Storm live trading session for July the 8th of 2025. The Quiet Storm is held every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 2 a.m. Central Standard Time sharp. We run for about 2 hours straight from 2 a.m. in the morning to 4 a.m. in the morning. And then we call it a day for the next day. And, very slow night. We'll see if we get anything else. But right now, it's looking like we may go the entire session, which is one signal call. Just somehow how the market works sometimes. Let's take a look at Polish Commodities, which should be the next one up. It looks like it wicked to take profit, but did not clear from the broker. That happened 2:45. We should clear that. I don't know if it'll happen before we finish the live tonight, but that's definitely going to hit take profit. No, I'm not asleep. Just there's nothing to do right now. I waited for 30 minutes and we didn't have a single signal call. I was going over my notes to see if I had anything else that could possibly be tracking right now. But just to kind of explain my setup, I'm actually streaming to YouTube from Zoom. So I have people in the actual Zoom room that are asking questions. And then I have my private trading group, which is Project Genesis. And then the signal call group for Patrick Kinney. So I have that. And then there, of course, I'm on Telegram, so it's private chat. So just answering a bunch of questions that people have. That's basically what I've been doing for the last half hour. So now that I'm all caught up on that stuff, we're just waiting. Let's see. CAD, no. Dollar, no. So we're at 32 pips. All right, a little bit more waiting. About 7.5 minutes left to go to 3:30 in the morning. Right. All right, coming up on about 5 minutes left to go to 3:30 a.m. 4 minutes. Um, 3 minutes left to go. Two minutes. A little less than a minute left. All right, it's now 3:30 in the morning. Again, this process takes about 3 minutes after the 15-minute time frame. See whether or not we get any additional opportunities to enter the market. Again, it looks like we're not going to get any other signals. So next time frame is going to be 3:45 in the morning. It's about 12 and a half minutes from now. A little less than 10 minutes left to go. About 2 minutes left to go. Well, 6 minutes rather. Let's see. About 5 minutes left. About 3 minutes left to go. All right, so looks like we do have a couple opportunities here. So let's take a look. We've got a buy on USD versus Chinese yuan. And 7.17966. But that's a long-term sell. So yeah, this one's not valid. Let's move on. We've got GBP versus USD. That one definitely is probably valid. It is. That one we will take. This is going to be a sell to 1.35428. 1.35428. Let's make the stop a little more generous. We'll go with a 3.91 risk to reward ratio. All right, so this is a 15-minute confirmation on GBP USD. This is a market execution sell with a 3.91 risk to reward ratio. Take profit is going to be 1.35428. That's going to be for 73 pips. Stop loss is going to be 1.36341. It's going to be for 19 pips. And entry price is going to be 1.36155. Again, this is GBP USD market execution sell. 15-minute confirmation. Entry price is 1.36155. Stop loss is 1.36341 for 19 pips. Take profit is going to be 1.35428 for 73 pips. And a risk to reward ratio of 3.91. All right. So PUSD. We have one more. This is Euro ZAR. Euro versus the South African Rand. That one's valid. is going to be a buy to 21.06316, 06316. So 21.06316. Let's get this called out. EURZAR. This is market execution buy. 4.14 Wisdom reward ratio. Take profit 21.06316. It's going to be for 1,582 pips. Stop loss 20.86680. That's going to be for 382 pips. And entry price is 20.90498. And here's your next call. The Euro versus the South African Rand, EURZAR, 15-minute confirmation. A market execution buy. Entry price is 20.904898. Stop loss is 20.86680 for 382 pips. Take profit is 21.06316 for 1,582 pips and a risk to reward ratio of 4.14. All right, our next time frame is going to be the end of the live at 4 a.m. We'll see if we have any additional opportunities at that time, and then we'll wrap up for the night. Again, I am the Pip Messiah, your host for the Quiet Storm live trading session for July the 8th, 2025. The Quiet Storm is held every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday at 2 a.m. Central Standard Time. We'll probably get take profit on USD PLN sometime after the opening bell of the New York Stock Exchange, which is about 3.5 hours from now at 7:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. We might get NASDAQ today too. 3:55. A little less than 5 minutes left to go. We'll see what we end up with. A little less than 3 minutes left to go to the top of the hour. We have a little less than a minute. It's 4 a.m. Let's see if we get anything. All right, looks like we got something on United States dollar versus Singapore dollar. And that is a valid trade. Let's see if long term is the same way. It is not. That's on a downtrend. So we won't be taking that one. So if that's the case, that's going to conclude our night tonight. I will see you guys back on the live, 2 a.m. Central Standard Time on July the 9th. Cheers.